Today's video is titled Hip Flexor Stickiness and what to do about it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what hip flexor stickiness is, who generally has it, and then I'm going to give you some exercises to undo your hip flexor stickiness and walk around with less lower back pain and less just creaky, painful, sticky trauma going on in the hips and lower back. So I'm making this because I've gotten a couple questions where my answer has been, you have sticky hip flexors, and here's what I would do to help get my hip flexors unstuck. And kind of how this happens and what this means is this is for the 9 to 5 working class, the desk workers, the people that sit down most of the day. And what happens when you sit down most of the day and don't move is this area, the hip flexor muscles, the psoas and iliacs in the front of the body, they get really like old and creaky and tight. And instead of gliding together, like the fascia actually gets sticky, and it kind of like your muscles can't just do this like they're supposed to. And on top of that, most people are dehydrated, so they're not lubricated, and their muscles just don't glide like they're supposed to. So what happens is what I call fascial stickiness. And what this just feels like in the body is creaky, and you feel older than you really are, and it just feels like pain. So if you're asking yourself, how do I know if I have sticky hip flexors? Well, if you sit a lot and you have a lot of kind of creaky lower back pain, and you generally feel better when you're active and you get some blood flow and activation and movement in your hips and legs and lower back area, you probably have fascial stickiness, at least in part contributing to your problems, symptoms, and pain. And how to know if this is your problem? Well, these 4 things will fix it. If this doesn't fix it, you probably have something else going on. But these 4 things are very simple. We're gonna walk, we're gonna do back extensions, a hip flexor stretch, and then what I call a donkey kick variation. First, easiest thing of all time, we're gonna walk, and we're gonna walk heel to toe, emphasizing the glutes on each step. The reason being is when we engage our glutes and push them forward, our hip flexors actually turn off and relax. The glutes and hip flexors are antagonists, just like our tricep and our bicep. We have the glutes and the hip flexors. They're opposite. So when we engage the glutes and strike with our heel first, you should feel more engagement here, which is going to be less engagement here. It's going to help it just calm down and be more susceptible to lengthening, which is going to get it more blood flow. It's going to get a little nice stretch, a little bit of lubrication, and a little bit of gliding, and a little bit of movement in the muscle, which is going to open up your stickiness so much. Like Stuart McGill quote said, walking is nature's lubricant, and I completely believe that. And walking is also just a great thing to do to be spasm proof, tweak proof, setback proof, because everything's just juiced and lubricated and gliding and moving like it's supposed to when you're walking frequently. The second thing is back extension variations. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get into an arched back position. What this is going to do is it's going to open up the hip flexors at the front of the body. It's going to get a little bit more blood flow activation to the glutes, and we're going to brace the core all at the same time. It's a great movement to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands right behind the back here and slowly lean back gently and carefully. We're not wrenching back and going for time. We're going for a nice little a light activation and blood flow to this area, because one of the big things for unsticking and getting your body moving like it's supposed to is blood flow and muscle activation. So actually relaying to your body that this needs to work, and this is what it feels like for this area to work, and I'm going to send blood to it, kind of like putting gas in an old engine. You're getting it working again. That's what we're doing with this back extension exercise. So rep count here, we're just going to do 20 nice and easy pulse reps like this. Remember, brace the core, light activation in the glutes, and slowly pulse back and forth for 20 reps. And for walking, try to get a minimum of 5 minutes, but 10 to 15, even 20 would be great. You'll probably realize your body responding to a certain amount of time, so just listen to your body, and whatever it takes you to kind of like open up and get moving, like listen and respond to that. All right, third step to unsticking our hip flexors, we're gonna bring in the chair. So you need something about this high to grab. It doesn't need to be a chair, but something to lean on like this. And you can do several different hip flexor stretches. They all do the same thing, but this is just one that I like for me. So I'm gonna stretch this right hip flexor here. I'm gonna put my weight on here to help me just focus on this more and less worried about my balance and other things going on. I really wanna focus my attention on this hip flexor muscle group right in here. And to stretch that the most, I like getting into this position. So the further you can get this leg back, the further the stretch is gonna be. Look, if you're starting and you look like this, that's totally okay. Or if you're even more flexible than me, also okay. What I'm trying to do here is leg back, lean back and away to focus the stretch on this area. You'll know what I mean when I get into this position, when you get into this position, but this is where you're gonna feel a really deep stretch. So hold this for 60 to 90 seconds, and even bonus points if you slowly floss into and out of it, because that's like if you can imagine a really sticky surface, like what your muscles are actually like right now if you have hip flexor stickiness. Like if you like pulse it, like force it to kind of lengthen, like through pulse reps instead of just a repetitive push. Like if you had a piece of tape on like your hand or anything else, like any other surface, you would try to pulse it and like lengthen it by force that way. And so kind of using the same idea of how can we get this muscle to lengthen as much as possible is going to really help unstick it by force. And since you walked and did your back extensions before this, your hip flexors should be quite primed and like open and susceptible to stretch. Whereas if you just jump right into a hip flexor stretch cold, you might come up against a lot of resistance. The fourth thing we're going to do here is a donkey kick. And this is absolutely a chick glute exercise from the gym, but it's also great for opening up and unsticking our hip flexors by glute activation, just like the same principle as our walking. So what this looks like is this. And a couple cues here is you want to feel this all in the glute. And the more activation we can get in the glute, the more length and opening we can get in the hip flexors here, and the less stickiness is going to happen on the front. Try to get 12 nice concentrated reps. And if that's too complicated, you can start scaled back by just leaning over a chair like so and just doing kickbacks, focusing on getting this glute engaged. All right, that's my take on sticky hip flexors. I really think this is a epidemic and a lot of people deal with it. I've gotten a lot of questions specifically that describe sticky hip flexors without actually using that term. So if you work a 9-to-5 desk job or you're really sedentary and you have just like creaky hips and lower back and you feel older than you think you should be, and you might be dehydrated too, and you're not moving as much as you know you should be, you probably have some stickiness in your hip flexors. Throughout these 4 things: walk, back extension, hip flexor stretch, and donkey kick, and also just move more. Get more blood flow, muscle activation, and movement to the area. Drink more water so you're more hydrated, so you're more likely to glide better. And at the end of the day, if you try this and it doesn't work, it's probably not sticky hip flexors that are your problem. So thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.